Craft Academy. My name is Timson. If you're getting to know me for the first time, today we are going to be starting a new topic known as functions and modules. Functions and modules. You understand? But before that, I would want you to navigate to your command line. So I want to move from this command line to VS Code. So it's important that I let you know how to do that because I've been using GUI. I've been going to VS Code through the graphical method. You understand, which is graphical user interface. I have to create folder, navigate graphically. But it is important that you know how to use command line as well. It makes you a better programmer. So that being said, come to your command prompt if you're on Windows, and if you're on Mac, you go to your terminal. Locate your terminal in the search bar. You just look at this search bar here for Windows users. You just click here and just type command prompt. You know, command prompt to bring it. You can just open it. You don't need to run as an administrator. Just open, so it will bring you here. So when it brings you here, for Mac users, like I said, go to terminal, go to the search bar at the top here. You will see terminal. You will see a search bar. Just type terminal. It will give you a terminal view. So you can just sorry, excuse me. You can just click here. You can just cd. Oh, sorry, uppercase. You can just cd um desktop, cd desktop. So by coming to this, you will see this desktop here. By having this desktop here, it means I'm in desktop environment. And if your case is the case that when you try to CD saying part not found, or part is showing what kind of exceptions, you can just CD to document, CD to downloads, whatever, you understand. But in this case, let me go off and say CD to downloads. If you take me to download, I can just go back. Cd dot dot means return me to the previous environment, and say something like cd documents. uh, Cd document, it said no part. Okay, because I put space, I can just come up and type it properly. Cd document brings me to the document. So I want to use desktop, so I can say cd desktop. By saying cd desktop, it takes me to desktop. So I did all those just for those that are not able to navigate to desktop. So you can just use all those. And if you are using a mobile device, you can just use the conventional way that we've been creating folder. So I'm in my desktop environment. So I want to make a folder. I can just say mkdir, that is make directory, that is create a folder. Make mkdir. What is the name of the mkdir? What is the name of the folder that I want to create? In my own case, because we are entering into a new topic, I can say functions. Let me see. Let me name my folder functions. You understand? So functions. Mkdir function. So it will create a folder, but I need to cd. I need to be in that folder environment. So I'll now say cd functions. So cd functions means change directory. CD means change directory and enter into functions, because I need to be in the environment. So from here, how do we move to VS Code? It's simple as saying code space code space dot and punch enter. So it will just open the tab automatically. So it will take me to VS Code. So that is that. I hope you'll be able to gain something from that. You understand? So it will create. Now in this case, I'm having the previous lessons that I've taught, but if I over on the icon here, the VS Code icon, you will see that a new file has been created, and of course, I'm sorry, a new tab has been created, and of course, we have functions that are created. And the beautiful thing is that I wrote it in lowercase, but it brings the folder up here in uppercase, which shows that fine that he has created a directory for me, which is same thing as folder. So you can just close this. Go ahead and close this. You can close this. Let me zoom out a little bit so that you can have a perfect visual assessment of what I'm doing here. Let me zoom out a little bit. Okay. I hope this is big enough for your view. So here you on this left side tree here, you can hover here and you'll see an icon with a plus sign. So this icon with a plus sign indicate a text file. So I can just create a file here. Let me create a file and sorry, I don't know. Sorry, let me just come here. Let me say new file. So let me create new file and say func.py because we are doing function. So let me say func.py and open it. So by opening it, I'm going to go ahead and uh, collapse this file tray here so that it will have a wider view. Once again, let me zoom out a bit again so that it will be a bit bigger. Yeah, I think this is perfect. Now, right here, I'm going to have a wardrobe so that my code can always go in a new line. Let me go to view, wardrobe. Okay, wardrobe here. So then after wardrobe, I think I need to create another file, a text file, so that for me to be able to type along, or sorry, for me to type some definition that I may be given along line, or to type out some blueprints or some bullet point. So let me create a text file. Let me go ahead and click on these so that to bring out the tray. Let me create a new file. Let me call it I can say notes.txt. So it shows a text file. So creating a text file that enables me to type this. Let me go ahead and collapse the. So beside my func.py, that is the py file, I have my text file. So what is a function? A function, fine, you might have heard of the word function, so it's not something that is coming out new. But in programming, especially Python, I'm guessing that function is a new term to you. I'm assuming, some of you might be curious and have gone ahead of the class. So right here, what is a function? A function is a group of statements that can be invoked, that can be invoked uh, any number of times. You understand? So beside the built-in functions that you've known, you can define your own functions. There are built-in functions, but you can define your functions. So I'm going to show us the syntax for defining a new function. So the statement that invokes a function is known as a function call. You understand? A function call. So in addition, or in calling a function per se, you can pass an argument to it to perform the desired computation. So in Python, a function always returns a value that may be either none or that represent the task performed by the functions. You understand? And of course, you might be wondering what is the need for have doing function. Yes, the previous programming, the previous modules that we've been handling, the previous Python programming we have been doing, we have three types of programming. Yeah, we have procedural, we have the procedural programming, and sorry, we have the procedural programming, and we have the functional programming. And of course, we have three. We have the class base. We have the class based programming. Yeah, we have the class based programming. So the procedural programming is that which we have been doing all this while, and which comes from the very basics. You understand? Form of programming. Of course, the functional programming is what we are dealing, or what we are entering into right now. So we're gonna be doing that right now. Then, of course, the class base is what we are going to do later on in our lessons, and that makes you perfect programmer. Knowing knowing class base. The class based programming comes from OOP, which stands for Object Oriented Paradigm. You understand? Let's say object. This OOP comes from it's an acronym for Object Oriented uh, oriented paradigm. paradigm programming. You understand? OOP, object oriented paradigm. This object, I think, is should be in plural. So, that's where OOP is coming from. So, class based programming is based on OOP. So that we are going to, of course, touch because something that we may be using. In fact, we will be using a lot in our project, especially when we have moved to using frameworks like Flask or Django. You understand? So we'll be using class-based programming. Now, this is the syntax for functions. Function syntax. Remember, I said that apart from the built-in functions, you can also define functions uh, for your you can also define your own function. So there's the first thing that comes is a keyword called def. You understand? Def. Now after def, you give a space. Then what comes after is the name of your function, name of funk. You understand? So your first thing that comes is def. That's the keyword, which is this one. Then what comes after is what name of funk. That is your function name. Your function name can be anything. It is unique. You understand? It has to do with you. But of course, you should maintain a better naming convention. You understand? So we have an open parenthesis, an open and closed parenthesis. You may decide to have something inside that parenthesis, and that this could be a variable or variables. Let's say we want to have say we want to have don't let us have that yet. I will explain that later. But you have a variable there, one or more variables. You may decide to have it there, and those variables are called uh, parameters. You understand? So, but I would explain along the line as we go in practical. So you have here, the next line after declaring your function, after defining your function, is what you give a tab. You understand? Or four spaces. Like I always told you that is a tab. I've always told you that a tab or four spaces, or depending on how you have set your indentation. Python uses indentation to maintain the block of codes, while other languages or most other languages use curly braces. So here we are going to be maintaining the indentation. So um, that said, after that you have your what your statement. You have what your statement. You understand? So you have your statement. Let me type it properly. So you have your statement, and of course, then after your statement, then you go out of the go out of the function block. Then you can just call your function. How do you call your function? You say name name of your function, name of func in this case. So you call your function. So calling the function is means invoking the function. You understand? So a function is called to perform a particular assignment, or a particular job. You understand? To do a particular thing. You understand? So let me point out some. Let's go and do some exercises or some practical um, or meaningful function practical. So let's say we want to have a function, or we want to have something that sums up two numbers and gives us the number. So we don't want to use the procedural method that we are used to. We want to use the functional method that we are used to. So we can say something like we define our function, of course. What do we want to do? Something that, when added together, will give us a sum of, will give us a result. So let's say we want to add two numbers together to give us. Let's not say we define a function sum. Of course, you can call it hard, you can call it sum. You understand? Me, I'm using sum here. You understand? So you can call it whatever. You can even call it your name. But look at my convention. Define a function. What comes after is a um, lowercase function name. The first letter is lowercase. Except you are having more than one word and it's to be called together, like I had in my name of funk that I declared here. in this syntax, like I have name of func, you will see that this one name of, what comes after is O, uppercase O, F, lowercase, then uppercase. It's just for me to create a meaningful explanation that these words are not together, but you know, Python convention, you have to what, put them together, and you can as well rewrite it this way. If you are not comfortable with it, you can just say, "Oh, a name of funk." You understand? So whichever way works, but don't use uppercase to start your function name. It is um, bad practice. So yeah, I want to declare. I've declared my function, and of course, let me pass in a variable here. Let me say A and B in this case, and a colon. You understand? So by passing a variable here, these variables are called parameters. Why are they called parameters? Because look at IntelliSense is already telling us that A and B is not accessed by pylons. B is not accessed by pylons. You understand? And of course, if you look down, the tooltip after B is not accessed by pylons, you'll see that it's enclosed a word there called parameter, which means any. It could be anything. So the parameter, by meaning of parameter, it means nothing has been passed to it. It's a variable that is holding no value. You understand? And it's what is enclosed inside what, a function. So a function is having two variables here, and those variables are not having a value assigned to them. So they become what, a parameter. So that is that about it. So let's now say our function should do something. Let's say the function should return say a plus b. You understand? A plus b. So we want the function to return a plus b, to add what, a plus b. So you would be wondering, I use return, I didn't use print. What's the difference between return and print? Print shows us print shows us the output of our programming, of our code on the console. You understand? It shows it to us in the console. But return does it behind the scene. You don't need to see what your code is doing behind the scene anyways by using return. But anyways, I will give a better explanation to it later. But let's not allow that to you know to take us off track of what we are trying to do here. But just know that return, of course, printing, they are practically implicitly, or let me say, doing the same thing, but not actually meaning. They don't actually have the same meaning as that. Printing prints out on the console. Return doesn't print out on the console until you use a print statement against what you are returning. So that said, let's call our function. So we have said our function should return a plus b. You understand? So now let's give it a two tap space and call our function. So how do we call our function? You call your function name. You understand? You call your function name and say, okay, I've called my function name. So what do I do? Now you have to pass values to those variables there, those parameters. You have to pass value to those parameters because they are empty. There are no values in those parameters. They are totally empty. So you have to what, fill it with what, we have to fill it with what, with values. So how do we fill it? What do we want to add? Let's say we want to add 10 and of course 20. You will see that automatically 10, because you have 10 uh and 20 in comma, 10 will go for A and 20 will go what, for B. That is it. That is it. But we are going to a stage whereby we will override this. But at this stage now that you are in now, this 10 will be what, taken by A, will be stored in A, and this 10 will be stored in A, and this 20 will be stored in B. And that is that. You understand? So by so doing, you have called the function. You understand? If you run it, you won't see anything in the console because it's a return statement. But it's not throwing an exemption, it's not throwing an error. You understand? It won't throw an error because your function is right. Forget about this thing. These things here, it's not an error because I'm using a Twilio script behind the scene. So you will see that it's not outputting anything basically because we just ran a return statement, but our code is not throwing an error. So to now see what is being printed, we can just say something like, say, we can decide is either we print the whole of these, say sum, we can print the whole of sum and say, you can print the whole of sum and say 10. You see that IntelliSense has already guessed what we want to print. So it's either you do this or you store this in a variable. If you do this, it will work. Let's say, you see 30. So it's summed up 10 and what 20, which gives us what 30. So if you do this, it will work, quite honestly. And as well as you storing this in a variable, let's say result, let's say result, when you store this in a variable and you now put this here, result, it works. It also works fine. You understand? 30, it will work. So that is that. That is that about the first stage. If you've done this with me, if you code along with me and you've gotten to this stage, congratulations. You are becoming mature in Python programming. So in this program that I've run, a sum function is called, then and I'll pass to value these two values to these parameters. What are these two values called? A programming lingo, in programming, they are called arguments. You understand? In Python, they are called what? Argument. You understand? Argument. So passing this argument to these parameters. That is it. So these two things are now, those two values are now called what? Argument, because they are being passed to what? To the parameters. So we pass two arguments 10 and 20. So the argument 10 and 20 will be assigned to the what? Parameters A and B. So which are defined in the sum function. So the function, of course, computes the addition of the values assigned to the parameters A and B and return what? The result. So I mean the result to the main program. So that is that. So the return statement, like I said, let me just give a note on the return statement. The return statement is used to returning output from the function. You understand? The statement is optionally followed by, of course, expression. So when return execute, the function terminates, and the value of the expression is passed to the what? To the caller. When there's nothing to be returned to the caller, the function returns what? None. So if a function doesn't require any external data to process it, it can be defined with no parameters. So I'll give a very um, more sufficient note on the differences between return and print. But like for now, let's just proceed. Let's just forge ahead. Let's assume we didn't hear about that, anyways. So let's say, like I said, that uh, like I said, a function doesn't require any external input to process, so it can be defined with no parameters, which means I can decide to define a function without these parameters. So how do I do that? Let's say, let me comment this out. Let me comment this out. So let's say def. Let me say define my function. Let me say I want to define the quantity, for example. Let me say I want to define quantity. I hope this thing is big enough for your vision. Let me zoom out a bit. Yeah, I think this should be fine. I don't know. It should be fine. So, I create. I come to the next line that automatically brings me to an indented level. So I now say return. Now say return. What should I return? I want to return 10. You will observe that in this return statement here. Remember that in this return statement here, I didn't put A and B inside an open and close bracket. You understand? I just return it like that. You understand? So you don't need to anyway. So it is here. If it were to be a print statement, I would need to put them in what? In that open and close bracket. So here I can now call my function and say, how do I call my function? Remember, quantity, the function name, that is, I'm invoking my function. So of course, by calling the function, but we want to see the return value. How do we do that? There is no parameter, remember. So there is no need for argument. So let's now call. Let me call. I want to. So I've called this thing. So call the function. So let me now see. Let's see what it will return in the console. You understand? So let's now say q, create a variable and equate it to quantity. That's equate it to the um, called method. So let me say, or called function per se. Let me say, let me now print q. So by printing q, excuse me, uh, sorry. So by printing q, I will have 10 because I said return 10, which is this. You understand? So that is that about functions without a parameter. You understand? So let's see. Um, let's go to a bit more complicated, or a bit, should I say complicated? No, nothing is complicated here. A bit more advanced. Let's go a bit more advanced, so we proceed with that level of advancement. You understand? So let's say I want to create a program that asks the users to enter a numerical value, and of course, let's say the numerical value between 1 and 4, and display it in the text form. Let's say if it is 1 that is being entered, it will spell it out and say ONE1. You know, for example, if the users enters 2, to say TWO2 and stuff like that. So let's call it conversion. So let's say def conversion. Let's say conversion. You can decide to spell it in full, anyways. Let's say, let me put an X there. Of course, parameters could be anything from 1 to infinite. You understand? So let's now say, if you have, let's use an if statement there. So if X equals 1, if X equals 1, so what do we do? Uh, return ONE. You understand? You will see that I didn't put it in parentheses. There's no need for that. Or I can say, if if x equals 2, you can say return TW, and if x equals 3, you can say return uh, I can say return 3. And if x equals 4, you can say return 4. You understand? So then I can say else uh, return, just to catch some exemptions, return uh, figure is not in my database. Database. You understand? Just to catch some exemption. So now let's invoke the function, calling it. Let's say, so I have to break out of with this thing. So let's say, um, let's now create. Before I invoke that, I want to create an input method. You understand? So n equals let's say uh int. You know why I'm going to use int here? I'm using int because remember that, excuse me, remember that uh remember that input, naturally by default, input converts input converts takes accepts string value. You understand? So if you enter digits inside input, it's automatically recognized as what a string. You understand? So we have to what typecast it into integer. So by typecasting it, we can say something like no, I don't need that. I can say something like say input. You understand? So that whatsoever value that's been entered by the user, it will now be seen as integer. So let's now say enter number between 1 and 4. Enter number between 1 and 4 and 4. You understand? And space. I can as well want. Okay, let's leave it at that. And of course, we can now say uh, we can say we could say we can now say print or we can say print n. 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 Um, we can say print n. We can say print n uh, in words. Let me say in words is a word is comma say conversion comma conversion and now say of course n. Now you might be wondering what is going on here. What is going on here? Fine. What I did here is this is my function and this is a parameter, of course. So if x is equals to 1, print return 1. If x is equal to 2, return 2. If x is equal to 3, return 3. If x is equals to 4, return 4. Else return figure is not in my database. Now I now said okay, this variable will store an input value that is being typecasted into integer and store it inside the n. Now I now said okay, I want to print n. You understand? N, that is the value that a user sent to, or stored to that n. Print it out. 3 in words is now this is a function call. You understand? But I'm trying to immediately I call the function. I'm trying to print. You can print function. You can remember from previous example from here. You can print. You can print quantity. You understand? You can print what quantity. It's just like saying okay. It's just like you're saying me saying I invoke. Okay, it's just like saying this. Let me do it this way so that it won't be confusing. Now, after the input, let me call my function. I can call function conv bracket. Now, inside the function, I need to pass a variable. Sorry, I need to pass an argument. You understand? So the argument will now be seen as what? As the argument will now be um, stored in the parameter. So by passing an argument, what is the argument that I want to pass? I can pass, say, whatsoever I want to pass whatsoever value that a user store in this variable should be passed as argument. So to do that, you now say n because you don't know the value yet, and of course you know that the value will be stored in. So this n here is an argument, a variable that will store an integer value. So whatsoever integer the user put will be sent as an argument and be stored in and be stored there and be stored here in this parameter. So that is that. So now instead of me, I can now say I want to store this inside variable. I've called my function now. So I want to store the function call inside the variable. Say call. Let me create a variable and call it call. You understand? So here I'll now say call. So this now now this is representing this that was here. So that is just what I did. So let's just maintain this. So you remember this n is the whatsoever that is being entered in the input. So let's do it. Let's have it. So it said enter number between 1 and 4. Let me enter 3, for example. You say 3 in what is what? 3. You understand? So that is that. That is that. So because I said return 3 if you have that. So that is working. And of course, you remember I did something here. I said if you know, remember after first thing first, when you declare your function name, you have column. Anywhere you see column, you know that the next line will be indented. You understand? Except you are breaking out of that block of code. So if x equals 1, you indent return 1. Do you know that I can equally put it like this? This is what can be called agba coding. You understand? So you understand? For your level is Agba. You understand? You are trying to um you're trying to have a lesser lines of code. You understand? It's Agba code, you know. So let me have this. Agba means in Yoruba it means senior. You understand? So it makes you appear like a senior developer, a senior coder and stuff like that. So when they say Agba coding, it means senior coding. It's a Yoruba lingua. So that is that. So you can do it this way. It will still run fine. You understand? By putting it here, it means you are saying indent. You are indenting already, but you are indenting. Uh, shall I say implicitly? Yeah. Let me use that word. So let's run it and see how it works. So by doing this, yeah, of course, it said enter number between 1 and let me enter the same number. Of course, it will give me the response. So the 3 in what is what? 3. So to tell us that it works. So that is said. And uh, I want to create another program. Let me think of another program. Let me close this. Let me create another one. Let me say let me control A. Uh, let me let me control. I like this. Let me create another program. Uh, another program that says I want to take if okay. Let me give you as an assignment. Do you understand? I want you to I want you to create a program that is similar to this. You understand? If x equals 1, return 0. If x equals if x is equals 2, return. You understand? Return 2. If x is equals return 3. Now, I want you to instead of using else, I don't want you to use else. You understand? I want you to use um I want you to use the pass keyword. There's a keyword called pass, Paas, pass, pass keyword. You understand? So if x equals 0, you can just say pass. You understand? I want to see how you will do it. So that if 0 is imputed, it will pass. You understand? And I want you to say if I want you to also use a non-keyword. You understand? And I'll say if x equals to greater than, I want you to say if x equals to greater than 4, it should what? Return none. So I want to see that. I want to see how you will do it. So that brings us to an end of that section. So next one we are going to be looking into what default value parameters are. Default default value parameters. Default value parameters. So the previous parameters we've been working on in the function definition, maybe they're mandatory or optional. So you can decide to. put it and you can decide not to put it. So you understand? By mandatory parameters, I mean those whose value has to be supplied in the form of arguments when calling the functions. Then the optional parameters are those whose value may or may not be passed when calling the function. I gave two examples if you remember. So an optional parameter is defined with the following syntax. You can say an identifier and equals to what? An expression, which is an optional. So it doesn't have to, this is an optional parameter. This quantity, depth quantity that I did is optional, and of course this is mandatory because I declared a parameter, so I must put what? An argument to it. So that is a mandatory and parameter. So I think you've known the mandatory and parameter. Now let me give an example here that is very very key. Let me use the former this thing now. Let's say def sum. Let's say def sum, and I'll say uh let's say how x comma y equals say 10. Let's say we have something like this. Let's say we have def sum x y equals 10. Let's say we have okay, def sum y equals 10. Let's say we now say return return sum, for example, and I say, no, sorry, excuse me, I can't return sum like that. Let me say I want to return x plus y. You understand? Or in order not to confuse you, let me stick to a and b that I used previously. Say a and b. It's very important I tell you this so that a plus b. You understand? So return a plus b. So by returning a plus b, so I can now say, remember that I have assigned um, value to b in the function. I've assigned value. So invariably, this is an argument because it's having value, and this still remains a parameter. You understand? It's a parameter though, but it's having value assigned to it. Anything here is parameter. You understand? But the value assigned to it is what? Argument. So now we have two parameters. That one is having what? One is having a value. Now, if I want to call my function, there are two ways. You understand? Let me call the function twice. Let me say sum. Let me call the function twice. Sum, and I'll say 10. You understand? Let's say sum 10. You understand? And now let me call again. Let me now say sum. Uh, let me say 5 and 8. 5 and 8. Let me say sum 5 and 8. Now, what will happen here if I try to access this? If I try to print each of these, if I print it, this 10, if I print this one, it will be the answer that will give us will be 10 plus 10, because this 10 will be what we go for A alone because B already has what? 10. You understand? This 10 we go for B alone. But this, if I print this 5 we go for A. You understand? Okay, let me still use 10. You understand? Let me use 10. So if I print this 10 will go for A, but this 8 we override this. It will go for B. It will kick out this 10. It will go for B because this one is greater than this. You understand? So let's try it and see how it is working in practical. So let me just print this. Let me call a print statement on it. Let me print this. Let me also print this so that we will see the true value in actions. So let me also print this. So by printing these two, we have something like say, let's print this. So printing we automatically go to A because already has 10. You understand? But this, yeah, we have two arguments here. So 10, of course, we go for A, but this 8 we override B. regardless of the fact that B already has uh, a predefined value, but it doesn't matter. This supersede this, so this will kick out this. So let's see how it's working in practical. So let's see. So you see that 20, which is, let me bring down this a bit. You see that 20 goes to A, 18 20, of course, sorry, from here we have 10 that goes there. So 10 plus 10, A plus B is what? 10 plus 10 is for 20. So we have here this 18 is coming from the fact that, of course, 10 went for A, but 8 kicked out B. So 10 plus 8 is what? 18. So that is that. So now brings us to a topic called um, keyword argument. Keyword keyword argument, keyword argument, keyword argument, or you can say keyword args, which means keyword args. You understand? So we use args is a programming lingo that we use to represent what argument. So you can just say args. You understand? Which intelligence has already, tried to give us what it means. So, what is keyword args? If when calling a function, you want to supply argument for only a few of its parameters, you do so by naming the parameter when passing the argument. So you are just like, okay, pass this argument to this. She understand? So a value passed to a parameter by referring to its name is known as keyword argument. So the advantage of using this approach is that you don't have to worry about the order of the arguments. You understand? So the following program that I'm going to do, we demonstrate using, or I will demonstrate it with the following program on how to use keyword arguments when calling a function. You understand? So let me give an example here. Let me comment this out. Uh, Control. Let me comment this out, and let me comment it out and do this. Let's say we have dev volume, and let's say we have dev volume, for example. Say on create a function named volume, and I say length, comma, you know, and I say b equals 5. I say length, comma, b equals 5, and I say h equals 10. You understand? And I say h equals 10. So I can as well print. I can as well print. Uh, I can print. Um, I can print. Say. Let me say. Let me print it this way. Let's say, L is. I don't need to give it space. Comma. L is. L. L is L, and B is B, okay? Because I'm looking for length and breadth and height. You understand? L is L, and B is. I'm going to give it space. You can just say comma B, and of course B is B. Then of course and H is H. Sorry, you can say H is say comma H. H is H. You understand? So volume is what we can say. After H is H, we can now say we can now say volume volume of these, or volume of volume of these is what is comma say length times breadth times height, length times breadth times height. You understand? So that is that. You understand? So by the time when I call the function, and I call the function and I said, let me say volume. Let me call the function here and say volume. Volume is 2 and 4. Now, these two, we go for this length here. This 4, we override this. It will kick out this value that is already assigned to B. It will kick it out and now assume the value. So B will now be equals to 4. Because I remember I told you what you have here supersede what is here. So this will kick out this. Then we have H, height. H will be maintained because we didn't specify we didn't specify third argument here. So by not specifying third argument here, um, H will not be what will not be substituted. Will not be substituted because I didn't specify any third argument here. You understand? Then another one we can think of is say volume. Uh, call the function again. Say volume 3 comma say h equals 6. H equals 6. Now look at this. This one, I specify the first argument. I declare first argument here, but I didn't declare second argument here. And I said h equals 6, meaning I am declaring first and the third argument. You understand? But if I remove that h equals, if I just remove h and the equals to sign, the assignment sign, if I remove it, it will assume that I'm specifying value for what? L and B. You understand? But by indicating, by forcing it, you understand? By forcing it, by forcing the by making h equals to 6, that means I'm forcing it to accept this second argument to be what, to be substituted for what is given in the what parameter. So let's see how this is working in practical. So length is 2 and breadth is 4 and height is 10. So volume of this is what? 80. That is length and breadth and height. So remember, then the second one now says, remember the last one I didn't substitute for h. Now we have to what, substitute for what? B, of course, and h here. So and I say length is 3, breadth is B is 5, which is breadth, and height is what? 6. 6 volume. So volume of this, sorry, 6. Volume of this is what? 90. So that is that about keyword argument. That's that about keyword argument. Um, I think next class we'll be talking about local. We'll be talking about uh, next class we'll be talking about local variable, local and what global variable. You understand? So we're moving from local and global variable, and of course, uh, go to higher functions like lambda functions, applying lambda functions to sequences, and of course have also deal with another advanced function like filter function, reduce function. That is how to use the functools and stuff like that. So this now brings us to the conclusion of today's class. Thank you very much for your audience. Thank you for attending this class. Uh, Feel free to share this video if you like it. You can click on like, and of course, if you are yet to subscribe and you find this lecture appealing, you can just subscribe to the channel so and click on the notification button just to have you reminded whenever we drop good videos like this. Thank you very much, and God bless you.